I was born on a ship. My father was a skipper on an inland barge, a small 21-meter barge. And you see some copies of that type of ship still here out in the marina. So I was one child of 6 children, and when I was one, my father decided he was going to have a life on shore, because either he had to do a bigger ship or stop shipping at all. It was not an easy time by then. So he decided to have a life on shore, so he became an electrical engineer. And that was, so I spent my baby years, 1 year on exactly on the water, day in and day out. So the smell of water probably does something with me. And the same is with my brothers and sisters. We all love the ocean, we love the water. I go boating. Clients of mine always ask me, Cor, do you have a boat yourself? Well, we do. We have a little tender in the canals of Amsterdam. But that's real simple boating, just for, you can sleep on board. We've done that. During COVID, we went through Holland on this little boat, but it's more like a floating tent. And I rent boats when I'm in the Mediterranean. Yes, even today we're floating. All my designs now are produced while on the water. Yeah, this is a floating harbor office. It's an old police station built in the 1930s on a pontoon, and it's been restored, and it was offered as an office, and I said this is a fantastic office for a yacht designer with foreign clients. So especially my foreign clients, they love this Dutch style wooden building next to a historic marina in the heart of Rotterdam. It's a fantastic, picturesque place, and I love it. I love working here, and clients love coming here and be inspired by being on the water. Well, first of all, I have to admit, every time I'm on board for a longer period of time, I'm impressed by the forces of the ocean. And I haven't even experienced the worst weather. But every time I'm on the water, I'm impressed also with the activities of the crew. Because if you look at yachting from a client's perspective, it's all leisure and luxury and having fun. But behind the scenes, what the crew has to do to make life practical and make the hotel work, the floating hotel, all the services that the clients need. I'm more and more impressed, and more starting from a practical point of view. Every day my boats become more practical and less impressive maybe, because after all, life on board is good when the crew is able to do a good job. So from day one, we always started to design from inside out. So we start with the content. What is needed to make this floating hotel work well? So you start with the engines, the engine room, the engines have to breathe. That all has to function, otherwise it's your useless property. So you start with all the functions, and really at the very end of it, you draw a very nice jacket, a suit around the volume, the real estate that you intend to build. Well, basically, I was trained purely technical. As a child, I wanted to be an airplane designer. I've read millions of books about airplanes, classic and modern, and fighter jets and propeller aircraft. I was really fond of everything aeronautical. But for some reason, I was living in Hardingsveld, Giessendam, in the middle of a lot of shipyards. Being born on a ship, eventually I just went to do mechanical engineering, which is very wide and very broad. And on top of that, I did naval architecture, but very basic level. But when I started my career, I was a pure technical guy. I was never trained to be an architect or an industrial designer. But I was always looking at things, I was sketching things. So without the training, coming from a technical background, at least that gave me a good knowledge in my backpack. When I started doing styling, I know what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. And to be a designer, knowing what is technically necessary helps a lot. Sometimes I have a discussion with the shipyard. They say, "Well, nice idea, impossible to build." And I say, no. If we do it like this and this, we can build this. It's challenging, I know, but we have to make steps forward. And I'm teasing you to take the next step. Not simple, not always do it simple or do it the way we did it yesterday. I mean, we have to go forward. So then technology in the backpack helps a lot. Although now 100% of our work is aesthetic, exterior design, interior design, and we don't do any naval architecture. We only collaborate with naval architects around the world. Unnecessary technology is a waste of money. The use of carbon is interesting because, I mean, after all, we're still building motor yachts. So to move a motor yacht from A to B, weight is an enemy. So the more weight you can save, the better it is. Building a displacement vessel with any carbon is waste of money. You're displacing already, you're not planing, so then it's useless to do carbon, unless someone has to pick up something by hand. But other than that, that's a waste of technology or a waste of knowledge and money. But it's very strange that in this market of today, where we want to burn less fuel, all of us are convinced now we have to burn less, and then the amount of sailboats are diminishing. That is very strange. It went from 12% to 8%, the part of the superyachts that is driven by sail or by wind. So for that reason, we are now collaborating with Royal Huisman in Rondal and Artemis from Ireland. They are the naval architects to build something, at least to propose something with a wing mast. Actually, a wing mast on a motor yacht, and we try to, with a very practical technology, very intelligent, we try to convince people to move from pure motor yachts into wind-propelled motor yachts, which is not a motor yacht anymore, wind-propelled super yachts. And there's quite some intelligence around that table. And our job is to make it look appealing and look practical, and also to get people out of their motor yachts into something wind-propelled. I do know that a lot of people don't like the heel of a sailboat. For some reason, that's what it is. So I still think the project we're doing now with Royal Huisman, we will do a monohull and a catamaran. I believe a bit more in the catamaran. First of all, the catamaran is more mainstream now. Look at Cannes Boat Show 10 years ago and now, the amount of motorcats, and it has exploded. So the marinas are being prepared for that. So now if we can build a catamaran, which is efficient in seago, in resistance, so low resistance, a lot of deck space, good stability, and then not a sail but a wing mast, I think that could be the trigger for more sailboats or wind-propelled yachts, because a sailboat needs sails, and sails are they wear out. You need a crew to, even without whatever automation you have. The sails is a lot of work and a lot of maintenance. The wing mast, we are now developing a wing mast which has all the good things about automation, and it's very user-friendly, and you don't need any extra crew, but it does take the wind, it does take the power of the wind, and that is something we will come up with a new patent, with a couple of patents again. I think there's a future for that. We do super yachts and we do small production boats and everything in between. And every design is a challenge, because if you want to do the perfect 40-footer, it's a total different approach than to do a custom yacht of 60 meter, full custom for one person, for one family, who will resell it maybe in 10 years to another family, which is very exclusive, very small market actually. And then on the other hand, as the production builder asking us to design a boat for the whole world, for the European customer, the American customer, the Australian, the Asian customer, a boat that is sellable globally, that's a total different design brief. You think about cultures, people use the boat differently, have a different lifestyle on the water, and that is equally challenging than a super yacht, which is a one-off piece of art with a big wow effect that makes one family happy, and then the other design makes hundreds of families happy. So it's nice to do both. To build a 42-footer, let's say for the next 20 years, and you look at your own children, and I have 2 granddaughters, and you think, what world will they live in? What can we do today to make their life better tomorrow? And I'm not like greenwashing, I'm not being a priest or a vicar, but we have to do something. It's very funny because sometimes I say to an owner, because then I'm stepping on their 40-meter yacht, and they say, my boat is too small. And honestly, I say, no, it's not too small. Maybe too small for you, and your dreams are bigger than this. But sometimes I really think, why build something bigger? But anyway, it's also my bread and butter. So I'm always happy to build something new for this client. But deep inside, I really think, why bigger? Why another step up in size? Because physically the distance to the ocean becomes bigger as well. The longer the yacht, the bigger the distance to the ocean. So I always try to stay connected to the ocean. I mean, after all, you want to go in the water. You want to go diving, go scuba diving, snorkeling, see the beauty of the ocean, and not float on top of it from the 3rd, 6th level, looking on the ocean. I think it's important to stay connected. But yeah, we got strange questions sometimes. I have to admit, that was maybe my mistake. For many years I thought having a swimming pool on a yacht is the most crazy thing, I thought. I mean, after all, you're on your yacht, you're floating in the biggest swimming pool on this planet. Why a swimming pool? But then thanks to National Geographic and Shark Attack and all these programs that make some people scared about the ocean, and some wives or friends of clients, girlfriends of clients, don't want to get their hair wet. I now understand the idea of the swimming pool. Yeah, and for that reason, we have now. That's where technology helps. I have invented. Sounds pretty arrogant, but we have patented a swimming pool where the water always stays in the pool. So you don't need a dump tank anymore. The water is in the pool, the floor of the pool comes up, that's nothing new, creates a flush level with the deck. What we do then, because that's all done before, we have an inflatable seal, we inflate it, and then there's still air between the deck and the pool. So we fill it up with fresh water from the tank, or seawater from the ocean, if it's a seawater pool, saltwater pool. And then, by having a little bit of overpressure, the sloshing water becomes a solid block of ballast weight. And this is something we patented. First, because we wanted to do a swimming pool on a relatively small vessel, with no space for a dump tank. And it's useless to dump the fresh water overboard every time. So we want to have a pool on a relatively small vessel, but we also wanted the swimming pool, to be user-friendly. So on the big yacht, sometimes it takes 45 minutes to pump the water from the dump tank, the hot water from the dump tank into the swimming pool. 45 minutes, that's eternity for some clients. That sounds like too long. And it's also a lot of energy. I mean, you're just pumping the water up and down. So with our system, the water stays in position, the weight stays in the same position, And the owner, if he decides he wants to take a swim, pushes a button and within 5 minutes the pool is on full depth. Within 1 minute it's a pool for the children. And then you say, okay, I'm finished here in this marina or in this bay, let's go to the next island or the next bay. But it's choppy weather outside, so normally you would dump half of the water again in the tank. We just close the lid in 5 minutes, we push it up and we go into whatever severe weather, into the next secluded area, and you can swim again. We always tend to look at car manufacturers. You have the cars that are very low cost. They offer a lot of content for a relatively good price. Cars are still expensive, but they have a lot more content than 30 years ago. And you still have the cars that are a lot of money for not a lot of volume, for a lot of luxury, a lot of artisanal input, and that's why the clients buy it, because of the artistry, the craftsmanship. It's all, I mean, handmade is something unusual, expensive, exclusive. That there will always be space for handmade, because people appreciate the amount of love that went into something. But I think the big market is trying to be efficient every day, more and more efficient, and still I think there's a lot to gain. If you look at, but at the same time, the amount of boats being produced compared to the amount of cars being produced, it's a very bad comparison. Boating is still a very small market, even if we talk about hundreds and thousands of boats. It's nothing compared to the cars. But hey, then the car you can use all year round. Boating is really a seasonal thing. An automotive object just for one season. We've been thinking about this for a long time, because that's also the reason why investors are not really interested in the yachting market. Investors are interested in cruise shipping, but the charter market is still a season market with 15 weeks in the Mediterranean max, 2-3 weeks in the Caribbean in the winter, in our winter, and that's it. And the rest of the year the boat is a product that costs money, doesn't bring any money. So we're now building a vessel that can, well, of course it's an exploration vessel, explorer. It has ice class. It can be chartered year round. That's the idea. And we're going to build it not at the classic super yacht builder. We're going to build it in Holland. We're going to build it at a cruise ship builder. So we want to have an upgraded cruise ship detailing. So all the details are not super yacht, but not cruise ship as well, something in between. And there we think we have drilled into a new market of affordable super yachts or cruise yachts, whatever we're still thinking about the name. It's a cruise ship yacht, whatever. Because the cruise shipping industry has grown. I've done a cruise ship for Silver Seas 2 years ago. I was very impressed with the amount of quality on board. I mean, I was impressed with a lot of things. And I thought, if you are just a rich young person who doesn't want to own a super yacht for a price tag that is astronomical, but you just want to be on the ocean for a couple of weeks, go to Antarctica, to whatever remote areas, it would be interesting to investigate, is there a market for something like a mid-level super yacht for someone who is just happy with, let's say, an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Doesn't want to have the 10, doesn't want to pay for the 10. And if you look at the younger generation, I mean, my children don't own a car or a bike, they rent a bike, they rent everything. They want to, because they want to go skiing, they want to go on holidays twice a year, on a city trip. I think the possession is going to be smaller in the future. It's all about use. And I think a lot of explorer yachts, they look like they explore, but they just explore the restaurants around the Met. But that's okay. It looks sturdy. I like the Explorer because you have a lot of aft deck. It's more focused on being outside than inside, which I already like, because I can still not understand why you are living in your skyscraper and then finally it's summer holidays and then you're going to sit inside again. I don't understand. I mean, I want to be out. I want to smell the ocean. I want to be in the sun. I think whatever barrier you move, the next barrier will be again the challenge. How far? Let's say we go to 750 gross ton, whatever, or 16 guests. Or I think people, the nature of humanity is always to look for the very edge, to really look how can we go over the edge and still be under the rule, whatever. That's what we do. We put extra nose on a 24-meter hull, so it's a longer nose, longer stern. So we have a 28, 29 meter and the 24-meter rule. That's humanity. We all like that trick. And wherever the barrier is, if it's here or here, we will search for the limits or go over the limits even. And we think sometimes it's impressive what Italian shipyards can build under 500 gross tons. What seems to be impossible at other shipyards, it depends maybe on the regulation, on the classification, society. I don't know. It's not 100% fair playing field, level playing field. No, I think whatever the rules are, people will search for the limits, and I don't see a big problem. Yeah, of course, there's always the endless debate, why stay under 500 gross tonnage? And to be honest, with Project V, which is at this moment my most unique vessel, it's also the latest. I mean, to build a 58.5 meter under 500 gross tonnage means that she's very slender, that the amount of interior volume is limited. That's just a result, because there is a fixed volume you are able to build, a fixed enclosed volume. So you have to, if you search it in the length, you will get less in the other direction of the cubic. And but hey, the client is happy. The boat is very efficient. It's very slender. It's actually very classic, because if you look at the 1930s frigates and warships, it's all very slender and efficient and fast, and that is also something. Maybe that's something we're gonna see more. A very long and slender hull is very efficient. I mean, the hull of Phi, if we did put in bigger engines, we can go 28 knots in fast displacement mode. So you're still not planing at 28 knots, which Perry van Ossanen did a fantastic hull form. The project we're building now, the 60 meter, is 1.5 meters longer than Phi. So imagine 58.5 meter. We're going to 60 meter, and she's 3 times the volume, more than 3 times the volume. She's 1700 GRT. So then you see, it's not even the length, it's the volume of what you're building that is really creating the volume and the nature of the vessel. That vessel will be pure full displacement, but has a total different usage than Phi. Phi will be Mediterranean, a Caribbean vessel. She's able to go around the globe, but she will definitely be more like enjoying the water. And then this other Explorer we're building is really to go to the cold places, break ice. I hope there still is ice when she's finished, but that's another problem.